Gaming these past few years has become as disappointing as a positive pregnancy test.
Looks like Ryder Milk.
All the usual suspects are as bad as ever. AAA studios squirting out very expensive but low quality titles, microtransactions, bad optimization, and every other stupid thing this generation and the last has normalized in the hobby. Just like when my sister let the 1979 Denver Broncos run a train on her. I'm just tired. Even Nintendo is getting in on the inshitification with Metroid Prime 4, a game people have been waiting over a decade for as the same vapid, Marvel-style character writing that plagues gaming these days.
You're alone on a planet with no hope of survival. But you're also not sitting next to Phil anymore in that cubicle, so... Win?
Hey, shut up! Shut the fuck up! You fucking retard!
They even locked some background music behind a $30 amiibo, which is nice. With Micron recently announcing their exit from the consumer-facing memory market, everything hardware-related in the hobby is going to get even more expensive, except the great sense of apathy. That's one of the few things that remains free. For now. There's been some rumors about the next generation of consoles lately. Microsoft looks to be going the compact PC route similar to the Steam machine. Sony will likely continue to dominate the home console space with a new PlayStation, and Nintendo watches from the cuck chair just doing its own thing. Rumors that would normally have me tall and erect have left me feeling rather flaccid. I think that's because, with our current technology, a new generation of consoles doesn't offer enough to justify its own existence. There are several reasons for this. First of all, I want to clarify, I don't have a problem with console gaming. I understand the appeal. Plug the thing in, download firmware and game updates for 13 hours, then you just play. No drivers or keybinds or messing with the graphics. You get what you get, no fuss, and usually no headaches. I don't want consoles to go away, and it's not just for nostalgia or anything like that. The alternative is far worse. I'll cover that later in the video. The typical console cycle as we know it no longer needs to exist. Where time between generations should be far greater. The leap in technology from one console to the next has gone from huge, revolutionary bounds to small increments. The jump from NES to SNES was incredible at the time. The increase in pixel count and colors on screen, character sprites were much bigger and highly detailed. The entire industry was flipped on its head when the N64 came out and started the 3D era. I remember the Toys R Us at the mall had a Mario 64 demo kiosk and there was almost always a crowd there, taking turns deep throwing the controller's weird prongs. The GameCube, PS2, and Xbox generation was a creamy delight. It did away with the low polygon blocky look of its predecessors and introduced the beginning of photorealistic art styles in gaming. Character models started to look more lifelike, environment textures were much more detailed, and voice acting was becoming more common. The HD era, the 360 and PS3, is the last significant leap in terms of what consoles are capable of in my opinion. A friend of mine got a 360 fairly early into its life cycle and I was in awe of how good Oblivion looked. And that wasn't even on an HD TV. Being able to play something like Gears of War and Call of Duty 2 didn't seem real at the time. I used to think, there's no way it could get better than this. I was wrong, but not by much. When the Xbox One was revealed and Microsoft was showing off gameplay, I tried to be more excited. The games looked marginally better, and I'm sure there was lots of crazy stuff going on to have so many zombies on screen at once, but I, along with my friends and a lot of people online, weren't really blown away. Cross-gen titles like Black Flag and Call of Duty Ghosts barely looked any different on the shiny new hardware. They weren't lacking any features and they both ran at the same frame rate. There were people adamantly arguing that the next-gen versions of these games looked way better. But let's be honest, the difference was like playing on a clean TV as opposed to one covered in doo-doo. I'm sure a lot of the stuff developers were doing with the new hardware wouldn't be possible in the 360 and PS3, but it wasn't immediately obvious like the jump from 2D to 3D or standard definition to HD. The same thing happened again with the transition from Xbox One X and PS4 Pro and their successors. The PS5 and Series X offered another $400 to $500 upgrade cost for some pretty small improvements. You could get a better visual upgrade by washing the cum out of your eyes for free. A new console generation used to offer industry-transforming leaps in technology. That's no longer the case these days. But companies insist on releasing new consoles at the same cadence, despite developers not really taking advantage of what we already have. With prices getting higher and higher, it's going to be much harder to justify a console upgrade that makes games look a little bit better. The line between generations has never been blurrier. The Last of Us came out on the PS3 originally, and it was awesome. A perfect showcase of what Naughty Dog could do with a console that was nearly at the end of its life cycle. Then there was a PS4 version, and it was improved a bit. Better textures and frame rate, that's good, but not groundbreaking. Then they remade the game from the ground up, and yeah, it looks good. It's no Final Fantasy VII or Link's Awakening because they waited like 15 minutes between the original and the remake, so there's not much of a difference in technology. Skyrim, one of the most ported games of all time, got a special edition on PS4 and Xbox One, and that shit looks nearly identical. Another thing we lost in the transition between 8th and 9th gen was optimization. One of the biggest and most consumer-friendly practices of the last few years is releasing games unfinished, buggy, and low quality overall. Higher GPU overhead isn't going to fix the fundamental design philosophy that AAA publishers have adopted, which is to evacuate whatever monstrosity they have by launch day and hopefully fix it after everyone got duped. Games come out running like shit all the time, whether you dropped a few $100s on a new console or not. Mid-cycle refreshes and new generations come out often enough that developers don't have the same need to really familiarize themselves with the current console. Late lifecycle games used to be the most impressive showcases of what could be done on aging hardware. Developers could use the experience they gained from working on the same platform for years and really take advantage of every last smidgen of poo these consoles could squeeze out. God of War 2 is still used to this day as a benchmark to test newer devices that are capable of PS2 emulation. It was punching way above its weight, and it came out about 4 months after the PS3 was already on shelves. David Jaffe is kind of a douchebag, but there's no denying he made one of the best character action games ever. If it had come out today, he would have been forced to split time and resources on a cross-gen PS3 version. The artistry and technical knob-gobbling required to make these games is a thing of the past. Final Fantasy IX, Metal Gear Solid, Shadow of the Colossus, and Donkey Kong Country 3 are all good examples of what we lost when developers kind of forgot how to make a well-optimized product. If companies can't put out a decent, relatively bug-free game on current consoles, releasing a new generation isn't going to magically grant them the ability to do so. The most obvious answer to these problems is to calm down and let the PS5 and Series X cook a little longer. Optimize the absolute shit out of every game that gets released. The longer a console is relevant and still getting quality titles, the better value to the customer who doesn't need to upgrade for a longer period of time. I realize that's kind of a pipe dream, since the companies that make the consoles and publishers that want to fuck you in the ass with every game release don't really care about providing value. They want you to consume product and then get excited for next product. As I mentioned earlier, I don't want consoles to go away, and I definitely don't want consoles that are exclusively digital. You'll own nothing and be happy is what most of entertainment is striving for these days. Everything has a subscription. You're not allowed to repair your smart toaster because the manufacturer will ban you from their artisanal whole wheat monthly service. The same is happening with gaming. Microsoft is already well down that path with Game Pass. I'm surprised they're even bothering with another console at all at this point. PlayStation Plus is similar, but Sony doesn't put as much emphasis on that as Microsoft does. Owning a console with physical games is one of the last mediums that still offers that experience. Best Buy doesn't sell DVDs or Blu-rays anymore. Less people buy books because of the convenience of e-readers. People are way too comfortable giving up all their ownership for everything. I 100% believe that gaming is going to get there eventually, but at least for now, consoles and physical games are one of the last bits of media you can actually own. As a PC gamer primarily, I'm guilty of this as well. I have hundreds of games in my Steam library, none of which I actually own. I'm just leasing the license to play them. And if you fuck up and are mean in Counter-Strike, Valve can take that entire library away if they want. One of the possible alternatives to entirely new generations of consoles is maybe modular devices. You can buy a base model that plays every game available on it, and a little bit later you can upgrade specific components for a smaller cost rather than buy an entirely new console. Though that's getting pretty close to PC building, and the whole point of consoles is you don't have to worry about upgrading components. With the price of pretty much everything going up, video games are no longer competing with just each other. They're also competing against groceries. I feel we can get so much more out of the PS5 and Series X, just like we could have gotten much more out of the One X and PS4 Pro. With the price of memory going through the roof, it may not even be possible to manufacture a new console generation and have it be affordable to a wide audience. Microsoft and Sony should slow down a little, wait for the RAM market to come back down, and give developers and customers a few more years with the consoles we have. Then release new hardware when we truly have a large leap in technology to justify the cost. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.